We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Ring that notification bell if you want to support this independent national rebel outpost of a college football YouTube channel. With a donation, help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $sign where you make your comment, and I will get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody in to the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend. Antoine Johnson, Arizona State Sun Devil. Greg the Freezer strikes again. This is not about me, Antoine Johnson. This cannot be about me. I did not make this happen. Antoine Johnson, Texas Tech wasn't winning the Big 12 with Sorsby anyway. Hopefully the young man gets the help he needs. Again, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Earlier this afternoon, Pete Thamel, Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby to enter gambling addiction program. Now, we're going to talk about this, but before we get into it, I just want to make our position clear here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Number one, Brendan Sorsby is doing the correct action. He's going into rehab to rehabilitate from a gambling addiction. That is a brave move, a good move by Brendan Sorsby. And we're praying for the young man, and we believe, I'm going to have faith, that this is a minor setback for a major comeback for the young man, Brendan Sorsby. Loved ones and family and Red Raider Nation and everybody who's a college football fan and who has enjoyed watching Brendan Sorsby. Gambling is a problem in this country, and it's getting worse. There's more access to it by the day. And some of these young men and women, they get addicted to it before they even know they're addicted to it. Right? It's enjoyable, it's fun, but some of us, just like alcohol, just like any addiction, it becomes obsessive. So, this live show is not going to be so much about Brendan Sorsby, even though that is the most important part of the story. Brendan Sorsby's mental health is the most important part of the story, period. This is a college football YouTube channel. And we talk everything in college football. So I'm going to have to do this live show, and I'm going to have to talk about the ramifications. Brendan Sorsby did the right thing. Today is the start of his comeback. I happen to believe that Brendan Sorsby, according to the information that we have, according to the information that we believe to be true, all that could change. I think the chances of Brendan Sorsby being declared eligible to play for 2026, I think it is slim and none. I don't think he can come back. Can Brendan Sorsby come back like a major comeback in his life? Of course. Can Brendan Sorsby come back and play in the NFL and be a successful NFL quarterback? Of course. Again, I'm praying and I believe this is a minor setback for a major comeback. But I don't think he's going to be putting on the Red Raider uniform to play in a football game for 2026. And we're going to go through the article of Pete Thamel. We'll go through some other thoughts that other people have had. But if it's true that he gambled on Indiana Hoosier football when he was a freshman in 2022, I don't think he can come back from this. I don't think he can be eligible to play. He's already been. This was his last year to compete, and I don't think Brendan Sorsby should be even thinking about competing. He should be thinking about his mental health, getting back, and getting ready for the NFL draft, and do all he can to become an NFL quarterback on Sundays. Having said all of that, and all of that is the most important part of the story. I understand that. You understand that. We all understand that. I'm not going to take shots at the young man. This has happened to very good people that we know, that we love. And I believe he's going to make a major comeback. But we got to talk about the college football ramifications of this. And that's what we're going to do in our live show today. Now, I know some people are going to be a little upset with me. Greg, how can you do... Ladies and gentlemen, we talk college football. What have we been doing all off season? I've been doing Spotlight series. We're doing one on Georgia Tech. This is like our 13th and 14th team that we have broken down. We have not done the Texas Tech Red Raiders yet. But we gotta... This is what we do. This is what we do. I mean, there's injuries. There's already injuries that have happened this spring. We have to take that into account. I've done my way too early predictions. I got the Red Raiders. I've got the Red Raiders, and so does everybody else, almost everybody else, winning the Big 12. I've got the Red Raiders winning the Big 12 in my way too early order of finish prediction. I got the Red Raiders as a 5th seed playing against Boise State. I got the Red Raiders defeating Boise State and becoming the second Big 12 team ever to win a playoff game. And then I got them losing to Miami. But I'm going to have to change all that. In my official August predictions, all that is going to be changed. Now, it does not mean that the Texas Tech Red Raiders are not going to be very formidable. They are. They could win the Big 12. They could. They got a lot of guys coming back. A lot of good players coming back. And they've got Will Hammond, who might be coming back. Now, earlier today, I put on my X account, the last report that I heard, and even a report that came out today by Pete Thamel, the likely scenario is that Will Hammond would come back about week 3. And week 3 is the Texas Tech Red Raiders game Friday night in Lubbock against the Houston Cougars. Because as you remember, Will Hammond got injured last October, had surgery, and now the consensus was he'd be back about the 3rd week of the 2026 season. On3 has a report out there that Will Hammond might be ready to go week 1. So that's good news for Red Raider Nation. That is good news for Red Raider Nation. If Will Hammond cannot be the starting quarterback for that Friday night game, then it's probably going to be this young man, the transfer from Tulsa, Kirk Francis, who has played about 3 years, I believe, at Tulsa. Decent quarterback. Now, of course, Will Hammond looked pretty good last year. Will Hammond did look pretty good last year. He's got some wheels to him. He can run with that football. I don't know how much running he's going to do coming off that ACL surgery. But I got to be honest here. Brennan Sorsby was going to be the dude. Now, you guys have an Antoine Johnson. I do admit, I do feel a little bit like Greg the Cooler because I talked about Brennan Sorsby before anyone really knew who he was. The first time I saw him at Indiana, I said, that's a pretty good player. In his freshman season, he threw like 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, something like that. And I said, Indiana's got a good one coming back next year. And then, bam, out of nowhere, Brennan Sorsby goes in the portal, goes to Cincinnati, and I kept saying, Cincinnati's got a good one. Cincinnati's got a... So I was a believer in Brendan Sorsby a long time ago. I happen to believe he was not the best quarterback in this portal. I still think that's Sam Levitt, who's going to be in the purple and gold this year, LSU. But Brendan Sorsby, very good quality quarterback. Very good quarterback. Better than the Red Baron Morton of last year. I believe that the Red Raiders were going to have this big improvement at the quarterback position. Bryce Pollock, cornerback, A.J. Holmes on the defensive line. They got a veteran linebacker coming back. I know it's not Rodriguez, but they got another linebacker who made a lot of plays last year coming back. The Red Raiders have some really good players coming back. And they're still going to be a threat to win the Big 12 championship. Their RB1 is coming back. Quentin Joyner should be back. The USC transfer of last year who got injured. But I got to say, this is a big shot to the Red Raider Nation. Because this is the guy that was going to lift the Red Raider Nation not only the Big 12 championship game and to be the champions back-to-back, but he was the guy who was going to lead the Red Raider Nation into winning some playoff games. Behind Brendan Sorsby, the Red Raiders are not, that offense isn't going to get shut down in the playoffs like last year. Now, I believe he's gone. Is Will Hammond really the guy? I don't know. But I believe right now, today, because of what's happened here. And again, we're praying for Brendan Sorsby. I believe in him. Minor setback for a major comeback. But I believe the Big 12 race, is now wide open. I believe the race is wide open. Wide open. I mean, John Dry, I'm glad the Red Baron got drafted. Texas Tech got more drafted players than Oklahoma, Texas, and A&M combined. Going into rehab most likely means there's more to come, and this is an attempt to mitigate damage. Could be. But I hope I'm glad the young man is going into rehab. Minor setback for a major comeback. And maybe there's a lot more to this story. I don't believe he's going to be the quarterback of Red Raiders. And that is a big loss to the Red Raiders. It is. Now, Will Hammond, again, he's coming off an injury. He's coming off surgery. I think the race is wide open. I would have BYU as the chalk. I will have come August. Now again, something else might happen between BYU and Utah and Kansas State, Arizona, Oklahoma State. Something else might happen in the Houston Cougars. We'll get to that in a second. We don't know what's going to happen, right? But come August, when we do the official selections, order finish prediction, I got a feeling that PAT is probably going to have BYU number 1. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say a couple more things. And then we're going to get back into the story. We're going to go to the Pete Thamel article. We got some other stuff we got to get to first. A lot of very interesting stuff going on in college football today. Thank you for all joining us. I appreciate it. And we'll go through everything together. You never want to see a young man go through this. But again, it's good that he's gone into rehab. From a football perspective, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So please, if you want to complain about my shallowness, go ahead. But I've already sort of explained to you how we're going to cover this story. From a football perspective, the BYU Cougars, at least right here now, they've got the big advantage at the quarterback position over the Red Raiders. Utah has advantage. They've got a quarterback, Devin Dampier, and another guy, but we're talking about Devin Dampier, who had to go through the trials and the fire of the Big 12 competition, and he did pretty good last year. Hopefully they see improvement this year for the Utah Utes. You're seeing Arizona with Noah Fafita. What fourth year starting quarterback? A lot of experience. Avery Johnson coming back as I think a 3-year starter. I might have that wrong. I apologize if I got it wrong. You guys know how much I love Connie Wegman. I mean, and then Oklahoma State, this huge wild card, Drew Mestemaker, who was absolutely brilliant last season, brilliant in the spring football game in Stillwater. And then you got Will Hammond coming off an injury. This thing's wide open. There's a couple of things the Red Raiders still have an advantage with. I mean, I just named you a couple of defensive players, Bryce and Holmes, and they got others. Like, they're loaded on defense. The Red Raiders' football schedule. They avoid Utah. They avoid BYU. Again, the Red Raiders are not under the spotlight today. We'll get to them hopefully earlier than later because of the sudden change. I know there was one magazine college football writer, who went on X and said, my goodness, now I'm paraphrasing, but I got to rearrange everything when it comes to the Red Raiders. I got to rewrite everything. This is a major story when it comes to the Big 12. To the Big 12 race. And all the other Big 12 schools, teams that I did not name. But this is also a big story for the Big 12. Because I got to be honest with you, and hopefully the Big 12 fans of Big 12 schools do not take this too badly. But if the Southeastern Conference champion goes to the college football playoffs this year and loses their first game, yeah, it's going to hurt the Southeastern Conference. The fans are going to be upset of that team. They're going to take their elbows. But it's not going to harm the Southeastern Conference. Now, the Southeastern Conference does have to get off the mat. It would be good if they would be able to get a team in the national title game. But again, the SEC champion loses their first game. It's not going to hurt the SEC. If the Big Ten conference champion goes to the playoffs and loses their first game, okay, it might be a little embarrassing. It's happened before. It'll happen again. But it's not really going to take the Big Ten down a notch. Not after what they've done the last 3 years. The ACC. It would be nice to see an ACC champion win a playoff game. It hasn't happened in a while. Miami was not the ACC champion, but Miami did win a boatload of college football playoff games. I believe they won 3 of them to get to the finals. It's the Big 12. It's the Big 12 that really, 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 really needs their conference champion, because it's likely that the Big 12 will maybe they get 2 teams in, but they really need the Big 12 champion to win their first playoff game. So whoever is the Big 12 champion this year, there's not only the pressure, of course, of being in the playoffs and representing your team and your university and your fan base and all that, your history of your program. You are representing the Big 12, and man, the Big 12 needs to do something in the playoffs. They need a different story. They need to be able to feed off a different storyline going into their media rights negotiations in the next 3 years. They need to do something here. And the Red Raiders, no offense to BYU, no offense to Utah, no offense to Oklahoma State, Houston, Kansas State, and Arizona, and maybe some other surprise team coming out of the Big 12. But the Red Raiders was the team with Brendan Sorsby. They were the team, they were the Big 12 team that is most likely to be able to go into the playoffs and not just win 1 game, but possibly 2 games to get to the semifinals, to get to the finals. Who knows, to win it all. This was the Big 12 team. Because look at that team. I mean, they're bringing back a lot of dudes. And they invested so much in Brendan Sorsby, millions of dollars. And I want to bring up 2 more things. And again, we're going to get back into this. Okay, we'll get back into this. Number 1, Will Hammond might end up being pretty good this year. He might end up being pretty good. Or that transfer quarterback from Tulsa, who they brought in to give some depth to the quarterback position. But Will Hammond is coming off an injury. Will Hammond showed some really good stuff last year. No question about it. But he's never been the guy yet at Lubbock. Maybe he'll become the guy. But Red Raiders, Joy McGuire, Cody Campbell, the chairman of the board, the Red Raiders football program believed it was worthwhile, believed they needed to go out and land a big fish at the quarterback position. Not a shot at Will Hammond, not a shot at the Tulsa kid, not a shot at the redshirt freshman that's coming up this year. But they believed that they needed an upgrade at the quarterback position, and it wasn't going to be in-house. They had to go outside the house, and they spent millions and millions of dollars to get Brendan Sorsby to win that portal battle. So is Will Hammond going to become a superstar? It could be. For this year, coming off an injury. He could. But the Red Raiders felt that they needed to go outside the Lubbock house and pick a guy up, because everything else is in place in Lubbock. But they needed a quarterback. And now that quarterback most likely is not going to be eligible to play for the Red Raiders. That's number one. Another point I want to make. According to the rules, that that we're all supposed to be following this spring and summer, the portal is closed, at least for Division I players. Nobody can jump from a team. Nobody can come from another team and then join the Red Raiders. And there are big, stiff penalties for the program and for the head coach if they take those actions. This is something that we all agreed upon. So I don't think there's going to be any help coming in. I don't think there's going to be another Brendan Sorsby walking through those Texas Tech Red Raiders doors in Lubbock, Texas. I think the Red Raiders, I believe the Red Raiders, are going to have to go with what they got. Unlike other years. So, we're going to be covering this Red Raider drama in Red Raider Nation. Brendan Sorsby probably not going to be eligible for 2026. The Big 12 race is wide open. Holy smokes. Later on in the program, we're going to be doing the Georgia Tech Spotlight. We did the Spotlight on the Georgia Bulldogs, so of course it's only natural. Sorry, Bulldogs, it's only natural that we do the Spotlight on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets today. Alberto Mendoza. We're going to be talking about Justice Haynes, the Michigan running back in the portal, goes to the Georgia. They don't have Jamal Haynes anymore, the great running back for Georgia Tech the last couple of years. He went in the draft, but they've got Justice Haynes, who had a very good season for Michigan last year. We are going to go through Georgia Tech. And we're going to be going through something today that we talked about in episode 489 earlier today. Our friend Matt Hayes, USA Today, wrote an article published April 24th. Today is April 27th. The SEC is ready to blow it all up. The SEC is ready to blow it. They're not interested in this college football playoffs of 24 teams. They're not interested in the army of 24. Not unless you give up a whole lot. The SEC is trying to extract as much valuable as possible away from everybody else before the Southeastern Conference would agree to a 2014 playoffs. But the Southeastern Conference, they're not falling for this. They're not falling for this utopia of a 2014 playoffs, according to Matt Hayes of USA Today. So we got a lot to get to. Let me first go through a member and a super chat. The other Gygax, 26 months. Holy smokes. Daniel Gygax, you are officially Cloak and Dagger knighted, officially Cloak and Dagger. The other Gygax says it's official. It is all but official. The Big 12 goes through Morgantown.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Could be. It very well could be. Again, we're going to take the football angle to this. We're all hoping for the young man to get well, mentally well, get out of that addiction, be successful at rehab, be successful at the rest of your life. but we're going to be talking about the football angle of this. And West Virginia, everybody else in the Big 12, whoo! There's a little bit of space there. There's a little bit of a situation that they might be able to take advantage of. And we've got David Hall. Thank you for the 99 cents, $1 holler super chat. Thank you for starting us off today. Thank you, David Hall. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you, other Gygax, Daniel, and thank you, David Hall. Very much appreciate it. Let's do a roll call here. I'm a little late with the roll call. I apologize. I do apologize. Jan Uzi's in the house. Bob Swanger. John Dry. John Dry is here defending the Red Raider Nation. John Dry. I just got a commercial ad on this show. It was a FanDuel. I don't know what it was. I skipped it. And that's what I put up on my X account. I put the latest FanDuel odds up here. I posted them. Keeping an eye on these numbers. Ironic. Texas Tech was at minus 115, and now they've dropped to minus 110 for Big 12 Conference Championship game winner 2026. These are the FanDuel odds for the Big 12 champion. The Red Raiders have dropped just a little bit since the news has broken. I think if I probably went on there right now, maybe they'd be at minus 105, maybe plus 105. We shall see. We'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, it felt kind of weird. I'm going to a gambling site to see if the odds have changed on the Red Raiders, and they have. And of course, the story is about Brendan Sorsby with a gambling addiction. Has-Been is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Rod Nix. Kenneth Maynor. It's going to be a dogfight now for the Big 12 playoff spot. I agree. Deadeye Yo is in the house. Hoosier Dave is here. Adam Vulture. Thank you, Adam Vulture, for coming on in. Expectations for Texas Tech have been lowered. Chips have been placed on team shoulders. Wreck 'em. Game on. The Red Raider Nation. They're not giving up. Nor should they give up. Look what Joey McGuire did at Lubbock last year. They did a great job. Okay. David Hall, I do declare, Michigan State will defeat Iowa State in a bowl game. This should be worth at least 6 points. The most I can give is 5 points. And that is a crazy prediction. But we're going to book it, David Hall. We're going to book that in. 99 cents, I do declare statement. I appreciate it, David Hall. The Architect is in the house. Go Black 45 is here. Who else made it in? Buckeye Greg is here. Dale Donuts. Didn't BYU beat Sorsby with a freshman quarterback? Sure, but that was Cincinnati. That's not the Red Raiders. But duly noted. Reggie's in the house. Greg, you're missing the big story here. Sorsby got aired out because he refused to pay Cincy their buyout money. Now that is one. Now that's not the story. It's one of the conspiracies that is out there. Why did Brendan Sorsby go to rehab? Why did this news break today? Why did it break today? Who leaked it? Some believe because of the Cincinnati Bearcats taking Brendan Sorsby to court, trying to get that $1 million back. Other people are. I've read some of these statements. I think they're all crazy. Some of the statements said BYU. Some people are accusing Utah. Everybody has it all for Cody Campbell's Red. So there's a lot out there. I don't think it's a story yet because I don't know we have any evidence on any of that being true. So, but we'll keep an eye on it, Reggie. We'll keep an eye on it. Rich Austin is in the house. Al Bundy is here. Tech should forfeit this football season. He hasn't even played it down for the Red Raiders. Hasn't even played it down yet. John Grove, every man a Wildcat. Thank you, John Grove. Appreciate you coming on in again. Kansas State. Helms Light is in the house. The Big 12 champion is coming out of the West from the state of Utah or Arizona. It is wide open now. It is wide open. John Uzi, try mole with boneless chicken wings, chicken thighs. Much better than legs. That's all that we had. We had legs. We had some other, I think we ran out of the thighs. We ate up a lot of these. We had a party a couple days last weekend, and we ate a lot of the other chicken parts. We were down the legs and a few other items. But yeah, you are correct, John Uzi. Chicken thighs is the way to go. And then chicken breast after that. Grateful Trojan is in the house. USC women's water polo took home the title yesterday. Congratulations. Fight on, USC. Wee Wee Sky is in the house. He's done. I think he is. I think he is. For this year. Florida Man is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. MBM, a future Big 12 team, Georgia Tech. Wow. Edward the Auburn Tiger is here. Thighs and wings, best pieces of the chicken. Morris Simmons, thanks for coming on in, Morris Simmons. I appreciate it. Utah would be the tattletales to rat someone out. Yogi Buck, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Amazing Blue, thanks for coming on in. All right. So first of all, let's get to, we've got one update on the I Do Declare. Chocobra Cat yesterday declared that there's going to be a 3-loss national champion. And we gave the valuation of 5 points. 5 points if you get it right, -5 if you get it wrong. Huge risks, huge benefits, huge punishment. I Do Declare contest to name the PATC Einstein World Champion. I Do Declare. We've got 34 booked in. A 35th came in during this live show already. And more is to come. So that is our I Do Declare update. Now let's get to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Before we get to Matt Hayes and the SEC willing to blow it all up, we got to do the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. The Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech. The Spotlight Series continues. The quarterback Alberto Mendoza, the transfer from Indiana. Career stats, he's barely played in 2 years. 2 years in Indiana, Bloomington. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 76% completion percentage, 232.1 quarterback rating. So the limited time that Alberto Mendoza has played, he has been a rock star, an absolute rock star. But he's barely played. And is he going to be like his brother? He's smaller, He doesn't have the measurables. But the story is on this guy is that he's a lot like his brother. You're not going to outwork him. You're not going to outwork him in the tape, watching tape, figuring out the mechanics. Supposedly he's a great leader, just like his brother. Now, Georgia Tech no longer has Haynes King. No longer has Jamal Haynes. No longer has offensive coordinator Faulkner. He went on to Florida to be with John Summerall and Aaron Philo, who transferred from Georgia Tech to Gainesville, Florida. This is sort of like a reset for Georgia Tech's offense. They got a new offensive coordinator. They got a new defensive coordinator. I think Georgia Tech is going to slip and slide a little bit, to be honest with you. But I think they're happy with the reset. I think they know they're going to take a step back this year. So Alberto Mendoza, big wild card. This is his first year, obviously, as a starter. I don't expect a whole lot out of this young man. Hopefully, we can see that he can play at this level. He gets better during the season. He stays healthy. And then he gets ready to really compete in 2027. Alberto Mendoza, the Mendoza era begins at Georgia Tech in 2026. Now this dude, this young man, Justice Haynes, Michigan, 857 yards rushing last year. 7.1 average per rush. 10 rushing touchdowns. He started his career at Alabama, went to Michigan, and now he's at Georgia Tech, and he's going to have to be the rock. He's going to have to carry the rock at Georgia Tech. He's going to have to be their superstar. And my, oh my, he's, whoo. Now, why did Justice Haynes go to Georgia Tech? Of all the places, supposedly they gave him a lot of money. And he likes the offensive line. They did a great job last year, although they got new guys coming in this year. Justice Haynes has to be the superstar for Georgia Tech. Jordan Allen, freshman season, 22 receptions, 304 yards. In this, they believe that Jordan Allen is going to be the guy who's going to elevate his game in year 2 at Georgia Tech. Jordan Allen, the leader in the wide receiver room. Now, they did get some help in the portal. But Jordan Allen is the guy that they believe is going to make big strides in 2026. Now, they did get this man. The man who stretches the field like almost nobody else, Isaiah Furman from Elon, 46 receptions, 907 yards, 19.7 average per reception, 9 receiving touchdowns. Mendoza to Furman, Mendoza to Allen, Justice Haynes as the running back. Pretty good. Pretty good offensive reset. Pretty good. Again, I don't really have high expectations for Alberto Mendoza. Now, maybe I'm selling him too short. But Justice Haynes, superstar. And it's going to be exciting to see Furman in a Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket uniform. High expectations for that young man. And the next guy we're going to talk about is the same exact defensive player. The same exact defensive player that we highlighted last year for Georgia Tech. You guessed it, Kyle Efford. He was under the spotlight last year when we did the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He's the spotlight guy this year. His last 3 seasons has all been basically the same. 30-some tackles, 70-some combination, a couple of tackle for losses. Very consistent football player for Georgia Tech. This is his 5th year, last year at Georgia Tech. His first year, he played 4 football games. He was able to redshirt that. The last 3 years, he's been the mainstay for Georgia Tech's defense. It seems like Kyle Effort's been there forever. The mainstay for the Yellow Jackets defense, Kyle Effort. And Georgia Tech's defense has got to get better this year. Got to get better this year. The 2026 Georgia Tech football schedule. They play Colorado. They play Tennessee at home and at home. And at home against Mercer, on the road to Stanford, at home against Duke. Take a look at that. That's a schedule. You know, they're going to be favored against Colorado. Tennessee's going to be favored but not by that much. At Stanford, Georgia Tech should be a slight favorite. At home against Duke should be a slight favorite. They could be 5-0 or 4-1 going on the road against James Franklin's Virginia Tech Hokies. At home against Boston College. On the road to Pittsburgh. They do play at home against Louisville, at Clemson, Wake Forest, in Georgia. They avoid playing SMU. They avoid playing Miami. This schedule is pretty good. Just like last year, Georgia Tech had a schedule that they made a big run on at the beginning of the season. The same thing could happen this year. But I do have Georgia Tech ultimately sliding. Look, they lost a lot of dudes last year. Haynes King, Jamal Haynes. They've been losing some big-time receivers. I got Miami, Louisville, SMU, Clemson, California, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, and Virginia. And again, Georgia Tech avoids playing Miami, SMU, California, North Carolina State, and Virginia. They mostly play the back half of the ACC. I got Georgia Tech coming in 13th place. 13th place. Let me know where you've got Georgia Tech, Ramblin' Wreck. Again, this has been your Spotlight series on the Yellow Jackets. Alberto Mendoza, if he's anything like his brother, Georgia Tech is going to surprise some people this year. But I'm not sure he's in that class. And Georgia Tech did lose so many guys last year. So we shall see. Georgia Tech, I got them coming in 13th. You let me know. You've got Georgia Tech ending up in the ACC. A decent schedule, though. That start, they could be 4-1. And if they can beat Tennessee at home, they could be 5-0 to begin the season. Just like last year. Okay. And now let's get to... Looks like we got a new I do declare. We got the Big Ten Huddle. The Big Ten Huddle. Holy smokes. A fantastic college football YouTube channel. Go check it out. Mr. Rhodes. If the SEC gets 3 teams in the college football playoffs again, they'll be joining the Army of 24. I think maybe not the majority of coaches, but a significant number of SEC coaches, I think, are part of the Army of 24. It's the presidents. It's ESPN. It's the commissioner. It's ESPN. It's the athletic directors. It's ESPN that is going to be fighting the traction that we are gaining here of the Army of 24. The coaches, I don't think they're going to be fighting it as much. We are going to learn a lot in Destin, Florida in late May about all of this and more, silo and everything else. Thank you, Big Ten Huddle. I appreciate the $5 holler. Appreciate the support. I got to get back on your show so we can mix it up. The Golden Gophers are being disrespected, and it's about time I put my Golden Gopher propaganda back on the Big Ten Huddle. Beautiful show. Go check it out, everybody. Go watch the Big Ten Huddle if you want some big-time Big Ten football talk. Thank you, Mr. John Rhodes. Appreciate it. We've got Buckeye Greg. Ooh, we've got thank you for the $2 holla. But I can't officially book this. I can't officially book this, Buckeye Greg. So go ahead and make another declaration, and you don't have to provide a super chat for it, because this is the chalk. I'm not booking the chalks in the I do declare. There's got to be some level of boldness for to even give you a 1-point valuation. Like, if you go through these lists, there's got to be some level of boldness. Like, the Kiffin will win more playoff games than Ole Miss. You know, again, LSU's got to make it into the playoffs to be able to win one more game. So that's a 1. Not that risky, but it's some boldness to it. Badgers win the Axe. That's a 2. Illini goes to the college football playoffs. That's a 4. But none of these are chalks. If you go through the list, again, the lower the number. Now, Gold Black has Boise State will not be a G6 team in the CFP. That was borderline, but I gave it to Gold Black for 1 point. But Boise State is the favorite to win the Pac-12. So I just can't book that in. Sorry, Buckeye Greg. I got to be consistent with the rulings. But give me another I do declare. Hopefully I see it, and we'll book it in. But thank you so much. Appreciate the support. We got Espis Talks. Espis Talks, Rutgers. Espis Talks, I do declare that a 9-3 team will make it into the CFP for the first time. Bama was 10-3 with their loss in the championship game. Not a true 3-loss team. All right. So that's going to be booked in, and that's going to be a 4-pointer. Because we do have Jacoba Cat. Jacoba Cat has a 3-loss national champion. We got to give that a 5-pointer. Espis Talks, we will give this a 4-pointer. You're going to be officially booked in. You'll see it in the updates tomorrow. Thank you so much for the $5 holler, Espis Talks. Very appreciate you very, very much, sir. Thank you very much. All right. Now, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Okay, let me take a picture of that, because if it's not in a super chat, it's easy for me not to scoop that up. Okay. Buckeye Greg says, I do declare Kansas will win the Big 12 in 2026. That's going to be a 4 or 5-pointer, to be honest with you. Probably a 5-pointer. Thank you, Buckeye Greg. Big risk, big rewards. I appreciate it. Okay. Whoo, boy. Matt Hayes. Matt Hayes. Son of Sarek, that one has already been used before. I do declare Greg the Cold will finish under 500. That one has been used before in the chat, and I can't take that in because I'm not a football team or a conference or anything like that. We're not doing personalities. But Son of Sarek, that joke has been used before, and my goodness, you guys are all in for a shock this year. Greg the Cooler no longer remains. It's going to be Greg the Gold this year. Matt Hayes, SEC will blow up college football as we know it before it shares its revenues. Again, we covered this on episode 489. I'm not going to go through this whole article today. During this live show. But Matt Hayes is arguing here that Greg Sankey will not go gentle into that good night, that the SEC is going to be a huge obstacle to a booming 2014 playoff. But it's the presidents, not Sankey. It's the presidents that's going to fight it every step of the way. Want to know why the SEC isn't moving off a 16-team playoff? Because a 2014 playoff is the first big step to the 10 football bowl subdivision conferences consolidating and sharing media rights. We'll get back to the article, but I don't agree with Matt Hayes on that. If that's the perception that the Southeastern Conference has, I think you're a little bit off. No offense, Southeastern Conference, but I think the Big Ten is not for consolidating, pooling media rights together with all the other conferences. But yet the Big Ten supports and is pushing the 2014 playoffs. I do not think a 2014 playoff is the first step towards everybody pooling their media rights together. So I don't know where Matt Hayes is getting that, but it's his belief. It's probably somewhere SEC believes. And I think SEC, if that is true, I think they're a little bit off the beaten path on that. The big dog, the SEC, isn't just barking. It's showing its teeth. The SEC not agreeing with the college football playoffs of 24 teams is a shot across the bow to everyone else in college sports. Matt Hayes of USA Today, if you want a 2014 playoff, you'll do it without us. Go ahead. Jump in the narrative deep end that the Big Ten has passed the SEC and college sports will be healthier and happier if everyone pools their media rights together. Again, that's not what the Big Ten is for. So I don't know where Matt Hayes is getting that. The SEC doesn't care. Why, you ask? Because the SEC has the ultimate trump card. It has ESPN. It has a long-term valuable product, not a Big Ten 3-year flash. The SEC can take their ball and play a 10-game conference schedule with a couple of preseason games against any group of 5 school, and they can earn some big-time cash. And don't kid yourself. Those G5 teams will line up to play those non-conference games and earn that cash. The SEC will then, Matt Hayes, USA Today, the SEC will then have its own 8-team playoff to determine the conference champion. And if the other 9 conferences are interested in their playoff champion playing the SEC champion for the national title, that's a road that the SEC will travel down for the right price. I don't know how I can say this more definitively. The SEC will never, ever, ever share its media rights billions They'll walk away and leave college sports in ruins before that happens. The first step to that catastrophic move is the 2014 playoff. Last year, we came out of Destin, Florida with very clear messaging. Sankey said of the league's annual spring meetings in the Florida Panhandle haven't changed at this point. And then finally, the SEC hasn't changed their position, and according to Matt Hayes of USA Today, and they won't change. Not for 24 teams, not for anything. Not for anything. So, according to Matt Hayes, at the very least, the SEC is playing hardball with the concept of a 2014 playoffs. Now, we know there are some coaches that are for it. And I think there's a couple of athletic directors that are for it. But ESPN is not for it. The SEC presidents, they don't seem to have bought in yet. And the commissioner, he's looking out for the best interests of the Southeastern Conference. As we have reported weeks ago here at Peek Around the Corner, there are those in the SEC that are for 2014 playoff, but if they're going to do it, they're going to be extracting more value out of the Big 12, the ACC, the G6, and maybe even the Big 10. In other words, if the SEC agrees to the playoff of 24 teams, if they jump on the Army of 24 bandwagon, the SEC needs more money out of this. They need a guarantee because they're going to be losing the lucrative SEC championship game. They're going to want more money, and possibly, if we go to an AQ model, more AQs than are being offered right now. The SEC is going to want their money. They're going to want the exposure. They want their protection. They're going to be playing non-conference games. The Southeastern Conference might be going in their own silo. They might be playing 10 conference games, 11 conference games, 12 conference games. The SEC is not going to dive in for the 2014 playoff unless, what are you offering again, Big 12? What are you offering again, ACC? What are you offering, G6? What are you offering, Tony Petitti, to us, the great Southeastern Conference? That's the Southeastern Conference position. And we have known that for quite a while here at Peek Around the Corner. Matt Hayes believes that the SEC is willing and ready to blow it all up. He has written this before. We have seen public comments from Georgia's President Moorhead about willing to blow it all up. And he is a major voice in the SEC. So, the dreams of a college football playoffs of 24 teams, where there are different layers of incentives. Seed 1 through 8 gets a first round bye, second round home game on campus. Seeds 9 through 16 get a first round home game on campus. And seeds 17 through 24 are able to get to the playoffs, but they got to go on the road. Different layers of incentives that are going to make all these regular season games even more important, even more valuable. The dream is still alive, but it's hanging by a thread. Because the Southeastern Conference is just not that into us, as I've been saying. And I think the Southeastern Conference feels a little bit betrayed that they went from 8 conference games to 9, got a little bit more money out of ESPN, but the playoffs did not jump from 12 teams to 16 teams. Now, the dream is hanging by a thread, but there still is a thread. Because as we reported to you a couple of weeks ago, there are people inside the Southeastern Conference, the chatter behind the curtain knows this, that is for 2014 playoffs. It just, they need to be able to sell it to everybody else in the Southeastern Conference. They're going to need to be able to sell it to ESPN. There's got to be a lot of horse trading to make it happen. ESPN is probably, or could be one of the things that are horse traded. ESPN is probably going to have to be guaranteed more than just 2 more games, from 11 games to 13 games, and have the other 10 go to market. They might have to get a couple more games. There might have to be a written guarantee of how much more money they can get by adding these other 12 extra playoff games to make sure that the Southeastern Conference doesn't lose the money from canceling their championship game, conference championship game. And again, the AQs are going to have, if there is going to be an AQ model, and I got a feeling that that's going to be brought up in Destin, Florida, because we've been told it's going to be brought up. If an AQ model gets brought up again, it's not going to be looking like 4-4-4-4-2-6. And that 29% distribution that the Southeastern Conference gets, that it might have to go up a few percentage points. If the Southeastern Conference, if you want the Southeastern Conference to agree to the 2014 playoffs. And then lastly, the Southeastern Conference going to their own universe, their own silo, having 10 conference games, 11 conference games, 12 conference games, but they're not going to be playing the Big Ten. They're not going to be playing the Big 12. They're not going to be playing the ACC during the regular season. That threat is out there, not just from Matt Hayes, but from other circles in the SEC, and they're pushing that out there. Paul Feinbaum, people are talking about it. This is a threat. Now, as I said in episode 489, can you imagine the SEC in their own world, a breakaway, where they play 10 conference games? They have 2 non-conference games against G6 opponents, which those games are going to be at home, to ensure that they play 7 home games and 5 road games. You see, in a 10-game conference schedule, you would play 5 at home, 5 away. Every team in the SEC would do that. Then your 2 non-conference games are both at home against the G6 opponents, so you keep that 7 home game slate. You don't play the Big 12, you don't play the ACC, you don't play the Big 10. Can you imagine that happening? Can you imagine that world happening? And then the SEC goes to an 8-team playoffs. So you would have 12-game regular season, and you would whittle away 8 teams. You go from 16 to 8. I mean, talking about making your regular season less valuable. People are complaining about the 2014 playoffs. That's too many teams. You're devaluing the regular season. What about having an 8-team playoffs where there's only a universe of 16 teams? I think that devalues the regular season way more. I don't think a 2014 playoff does devalue the regular season. So it brings up another point here. And then we'll get to the phone calls. It does bring up another point. Let's say the Southeastern Conference never can agree to this 2014 playoff, and the Big Ten never compromises on the 2014 playoffs. Let's say the SCORE Act doesn't pass. Let's say that the Nebraska 18 let's say the Nebraska 18 in that arbitration case tomorrow, that goes good for the Nebraska 18. Let's say everything implodes and the SEC goes into their May meetings and they go into their silos. And they do a 10-game conference schedule or 11-game conference or a 12-game conference schedule. But they're not playing anybody else in the Power Four. And let's say it gets so bad between the conferences because we're meeting with each other less and less, right? The NCAA is broken away. The SEC is broken away. There's less people talk, less times that we're talking to each other. And the SEC does this 8-team playoffs. It is going to be more money for the Southeastern Conference. 10 conference games. They're going to get a massive media deal for their playoffs. And there's probably going to be more gasoline poured on the expansion fire if this is what happens. If the SEC goes in their silo, goes in their own universe because of all the things that have happened, the SCORE Act, Nebraska Arbitration 18, and everything else that's happening, no compromise on the college football playoffs, you would think at that point the SEC would expand, and it would most definitely be the big scoop to enlarge their footprint, to get bigger markets, more markets, different markets, more diversity of students, on and on and on. So I don't think if the SEC goes in their own universe, does an 18-team playoff, I don't think it's going to be a 16-team conference. I think it would be a 20-team conference. But anyways, we just wanted to put that out there. Matt Hayes, USA Today. We covered the whole article on episode 489, so go check it out. We skipped through a lot of it here during this live show because we already covered it. Episode 489 earlier today. Now, let's get back to the Texas Tech breaking news. Pete Thamel, Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby to enter the gambling addiction program. Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby, one of the college football's top returning players, is checking into a residential treatment program for a gambling addiction, the school announced Monday. Sorsby's decision to treatment, according to sources, came in the wake of discovery of Sorsby making thousands of online bets on a variety of sports via a gambling app, which jeopardizes his eligibility with Texas Tech. Came in the wake of the discovery. Who made the discovery? Who leaked the discovery? I do not know the answers. If that has been reported, since we've been on live, please put in the chat room, let me know. The NCAA is investigating Sorsby gambling, according to sources, as the organization forbids athletes from betting on college and pro sports. Texas Tech said in a statement that the university is committed to supporting Brendan Sorsby through his recovery process and to ensure his long-term health and well-being. According to sources, Sorsby bet on Indiana football while redshirting for the Hoosiers as a true freshman in 2022, a season in which he played a single game as a reserve. The bets in 2022, according to sources, were on Indiana to win, and none came in a game which Sorsby appeared. Sorsby's gambling has not drawn the attention of law enforcement, according to sources, nor has he been linked to anyone attempting to influence the outcome of a game. Sorsby gambling, sources said, was a steady flurry of small bets over a period of time. There's no timetable for Sorsby's treatment. As sources said, his situation is being treated as a mental health issue, and Sorsby will be afforded all the time he needs. His decision as a high-profile college athlete to enter a facility to treat his gambling addiction while enrolled is unprecedented. We love Brandon and support his decision to seek professional help. Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire said in a statement, taking the step requires courage, and our primary focus is on him as a person. Our program is behind Brandon as he prioritizes his health. Sorsby transferred to Texas Tech this offseason, positioned him as one of the faces of the sport for 2026. He was the number one in ESPN's transfer portal rankings. Number one. Sorsby entered the 2026 season projected as a potential high-end NFL draft pick in 27. Sorsby projects as one of the highest-paid players in college football. As ESPN has reported, he was in line to make more than $5 million this year at Texas Tech. He transferred to Texas Tech from Cincinnati, where he was one of the most sought-after players in the NCAA transfer portal this offseason. As for his on-field future, the NCAA has a strict policy against any type of gambling by athletes on intercollegiate, amateur, or professional athletics competition, and violators are ineligible for competition subject to appeal. Betting on Indiana football while on the roster looms as a significant obstacle for Sorsby to return according to the NCAA's punishment structure. Other potential gambling punishment guidelines include if a college football player, for example, bets on a different school in their sport, a loss of 50% of one season of eligibility will be considered. And then it goes on through some other ones. So that's the story. Like I've said at the beginning of the program, I think it's an extreme long shot that Sorsby plays college football again. I think the Red Raiders are going to have to go to that Tulsa transfer, or if Will Hammond is ready for week 1, week 2, week 3, they're going to have to go with Will Hammond. Coming off surgery, coming off an ACL surgery, an injury that he had last October. And Will Hammond depended on his legs. I don't know, man. I think the Big 12, again, we're covering the football aspect of this. We're praying for the young man. Minor setback for a major comeback. Brendan Sorsby, you can do this. You can beat the addiction. But we're covering the football aspect of this. PATC, college football, peek around the corner, considers the Big 12 race wide open. Wide open. BYU, Texas Tech, Houston, Utah, Kansas State, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and could there be others that come and join the mix? The West Virginia Mountaineers, others? Let me know in the comment section, and let me know with the phone calls. We are opening up the phone lines right now. Talk anything in college football that your heart desires. We covered a lot here at Peek Around the Corner. I've been babbling for an hour and 23 minutes. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Let me know. Give us a call.
From
Rick, thanks for calling. I do appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Never go to sleep on college football.
No, you can't. And I picked up the little general at work, and I told the little general, I said, you won't believe it if I told you. I had to switch up my whole live show because of this big breaking news on Brendan Sorsby. Unbelievable. Go ahead, Rick.
Just like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Hope he does well. Even with full recovery, he's not going to play college football. and he's going to be a gamble for the NFL. When the NFL doesn't put up with it, the team, they can't. The professional football teams can't afford to have. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's
He might get a shot. Somebody might give him a shot in the NFL, but it's a one-time deal. It's a one-time, don't even look that way deal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah, he'll have to have if he plays the Raiders, he'll have. That's probably where he wants to go.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I want to talk about the Big Ten.
Got it.
And the SEC taking the big scoop. They pick their 4. They become a conference of 20, and they go into the silo.
Yeah.
And then, according to you, the Big Ten's been gaming this all out.
Yeah.
They've been gaming it if Notre Dame waits. They've been gaming it if Notre Dame jumps in early. They got it all going. Now we start with Washington and Oregon needing to be made whole. And that's because they have veto power along with their friends.
They got votes. Yep.
They got votes.
Yep.
How many votes does it take to
6.
6 total votes?
Take 6 to squash anything.
To squash anything.
Yeah.
With the 18 teams.
And I think, you know what? And I think people are gonna think I'm crazy for saying this, but I think USC and UCLA would vote with Oregon and Washington.
Well, that leaves 2 more.
I think that's 4 because I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. I don't want to step on your phone call. It's just because I think they want to be in the game of negotiations when it comes to the next expansion, and having those 4 votes and having the excuse of making sure that Oregon and Washington is whole. I think they're going to use that as leverage to try to get one more addition west of the Mississippi in this next wave. Go ahead, sir.
Well, but you're not stepping on my call because that's exactly where I'm going, and that was going to be my next question. So we're talking the same language.
Yeah.
I kind of would think that they would have an either-or, with the Big Ten saying, do you want another team on the West Coast, to keep everybody's flying down, everybody's happy, or do you want to be made whole? You don't get both.
The other thing is, if they do add somebody west of the Mississippi in the next wave, I happen to believe, because other people happen to believe, that that addition or those additions would take 50 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar, and that would help.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that would help Oregon and Washington to get whole. But go ahead.
Okay, well, that would make sense then. If it were in Arizona State or Utah.
Yeah.
Because those are the prime candidates on the West.
Mm-hmm.
Or Arizona State and Arizona. Coming from the Big 12, certainly they'd take come in for half freight.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves the East Coast, and whether or not Notre Dame comes with Miami, or whether or not Miami comes with someone else. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably... See, I told you before, I don't think Notre Dame gets to pick a friend if they come at the end.
I think they would have less of a chance of doing so. I would agree with you on that.
Well, I would think they would have no chance because they've got no other options. If the SEC is in their silo with 20 teams and the Big Ten has gobbled up 21 teams and tells Notre Dame, you're 22, yes or no?
Yeah.
What happens?
I don't know. I think Notre Dame is ultimately going to be a yes, but yeah, go ahead.
You think Notre Dame is not going to go?
I think they would. I think they would because the whole world at that point would have blown up in the ACC.
That's correct. That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
And at that point, they wouldn't have any bargaining power because the world had blown up.
Yep.
Where do they get their leverage in that scenario?
I would agree. I would agree.
So it might behoove the Big Ten to pick who they want for the other teams instead of giving Notre Dame a vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Notre Dame happened to say, oh, we want Stanford or we want Duke, well, that's not very cost-effective or ratings good for the Big Ten, correct?
Correct, yep.
And they'll probably, whoever Notre Dame's friend is, will come in at half freight. So they're not doing any favors if the Big Ten can already get the West Coast teams at half freight.
Yep.
So there's no leverage there. I'm begging you to tell me what leverage Notre Dame has if they don't act swiftly.
I can't. I think they keep losing leverage. I think they have kept losing leverage ever since about 48 hours after it became official that USC and UCLA were joining the Big Ten. USC talked to Notre Dame and Notre Dame eventually said no pretty quickly. And ever since then, I think they've lost a little bit of leverage. I don't know, they're definitely not gaining leverage.
It disintegrates every day that the SCORE Act isn't passed or gets ready to go away. When the Nebraska arbitrator's decision gets rendered, if that goes the player's way, again, Notre Dame falls deeper and deeper down.
Yep.
Because that's probably going to lead to the SEC doing their thing. I don't understand why Notre Dame is waiting. They're too smart to wait. The house is depreciating every day they wait.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for taking the call.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it, Rick. Beautiful. We'll get to the breaking news in 1 second here. We'll get to the breaking news in 1 second.
Call from
William.
William, can you hold on for a moment?
Yep.
All right, we've got breaking news. We got breaking news. Ross Dellinger reports that the D1 Board of Directors directed the D1 Cabinet to continue work on the age-based 5-year eligibility concept. Big note, players who exhausted eligibility this year under current rules, even those 4-year seniors, will not receive an additional 5th season. Not retroactive. So, now I think that's going to bring on some lawsuits. I think having a grandfather in this thing in would have made it more smoother with the courts. But again, you're not going to have a bunch of players are waiting to see if they should. I know we have a Golden Gopher basketball player who just entered the portal who's got no eligibility remaining, but he thought maybe if something would pop here where they're grandfathered in for a 5th year, then he could play another year. But it looks like the D1 Board of Directors directed the D1 Cabinet to go in a different direction. Pretty interesting. Go ahead, William. The floor is yours. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to just grandfather. It's just 1 year worth of kids. It just seems like begging on for more lawsuits. But in any case, yeah, to answer the Notre Dame question, I think they know their situation, and I think the Big Ten understands their situation. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame's problem is not, hey, can we get Stanford in, or hey, what can I do to leverage the most? Because the biggest leverage or non-leverage that they have is their fans and their boosters. Their fans and boosters need to be convinced that there is no other choice. Mm-hmm. The only way that happens is if the ACC explodes. And once the fans and boosters realize, well, it's either the Big Ten or, in essence, we're kind of screwed, at that point, even their fans and boosters would get on board, right? Nobody wants to be left behind. So, yeah, I don't think Notre Dame is going to come and tell their fan base, yeah, we proactively decided to join the Big Ten just so that we can get Stanford in. Like, I don't see that. And also, I don't see Big Ten pushing for Notre Dame right now with that same logic, because I think fan bases and boosters need to see that the SEC is already going after a big scoop, that the Big Ten is going to potentially pick up a Miami. And at that point, what does Notre Dame do? Well, they get on the boat. So that's quickly on that. Mm-hmm. The other comment I wanted to make was on Matt Hayes' article.
Yes.
It might be that the hesitation for 24 and the comments being made about distribution and sharing of payouts might be along the lines of, right now there's like the Big Ten and the SEC get each of them, I think, 29%. I think the ACC gets 17%. The Big 12 gets, I think, either 14 or 15. Mm-hmm. If they came in and okay to 24 right now, would the SEC be able to come and say, yeah, we're taking 35 or 40% right now, when you haven't even taken the teams? Like, you probably won't do that unless you're already telling everybody, hey, we're picking up 4 teams from the ACC, which they're not at the point of doing that right now. So the only solution of going to 24 would be keeping those splits. And there is no way that they're going to keep the splits through 2030 or 2031 if they pick up a big scoop starting in 2028 or 2029. So I think it's more them, hey, let's hold off, not because we necessarily want to, but we need to make sure that we're going to revisit those distributions after we pick up the schools that are perceived to be the money schools that bring into that distribution, because at that point you're considering Miami. You're using the legacy, potentially Florida State and Clemson national championships, and whoever from the ACC and potentially Big 12 if like a Utah or Kansas make it and say, hey, we're taking these values as well, and we need to increase our 29% to 35 or 40, whatever that is. So that might be the reason of let's not go to it right now, because we can't keep the same distributions. But yep, those are my comments. Just wanted to share.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I think this is the first year in which the SEC's taken 29%. It's just beginning this year in 2026. But anyways, I appreciate the phone call, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Is Rod Nix trying to call? Rod Nix, are you trying to call in?
From
Fred?
Fred, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Hi, Greg. ESPN is contracted, through 2030 to do this 12-team playoff they currently have?
Yes.
So they wouldn't do an 8-team SEC playoff system before then, would they?
Well,
That's a lot of money.
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer.
Okay, well, I just think the SEC is negotiating for something better than what they're getting. It has nothing to do with their fear of merging all the media rights. That has, as long as the SEC and Big Ten not want to do it anyway, this is not going to happen. So there's some other reason that they're doing it. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
Isn't that more reasonable than this media thing?
Fred?
Yeah.
I don't know. The problem, I don't have an answer. The problem I have with this breakaway is there's contracts already set up. The CFP contract. I mean, there's obligations to the House settlement thing. Even if the SCORE Act does, I don't know how all of this would work.
Right.
So
it's totally new territory for everybody.
Yes. Yeah. I there must be a way for the Southeastern Conference to make it work, because I truly believe their threat is real, and I think other people are taking their threat as real, and I think reporters are taking it real. I think the Big Ten's taking it real. So there must be some exit hatches out of everything. It might be costly, but that's my best guess. I really don't know. I don't know how this is all going to work.
Okay. Well, part of the issue to me is the fundamental problem that college football has with ESPN. That ESPN is responsible for the playoffs, but they also have a dog in the hunt in their contract with the SEC. That's constantly been an issue.
Yeah.
So, now let me ask you this. If they go in a silo, do all their other sports stay as they are, or are they leaving the NCAA?
Another great question. Is it just a breakaway for football, or are they leaving for everything? If they do.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, well,
I don't have any answers. All I got is questions.
Well, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
I mean, not having any history to rely on to answer questions, we have no idea.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, just listening and having more questions, and
Yes.
not that I expected you'd have the answers necessarily because we don't know, but
Yeah.
it's part of what's going to have to be sorted out. Now, would the SEC accept 12 teams for the next 4 or 5 years in the playoffs?
Well, they would. Well, absent of their breakaway and doing other things because of the Score Act, that's the road that we're on. If we do not compromise in any other, if the Big Ten and the SEC doesn't compromise in any other format, this is where we're at until 2031. This is the format we're going to do. Unless the SEC does something, breaks away and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it just seems. Now, I'll tell you this would be a non-starter if they're trying to get more AQs than the Big Ten. I mean, that ship has sailed. Now, at the very least, they're on the same, on a par with each other.
I would think so.
Despite that little quote dig in there about three-year thing for the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They're on an even keel, and if part of their negotiation is to get something better than the Big Ten, well, we're going to stay at 12. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to raise those questions.
All right. I appreciate it, Fred. Thank you for the call,
Thank
sir.
you, Greg.
You got
Take
it.
care.
All right, phone calls. We're going to do one more phone call, and that's coming from Rod Nix. So if anybody else calls in, we're going to have to...
From
Replica.
Replica. Go ahead, sir. Let's make... We're trying to get Rod Nix to call in. Because he's been trying to call for like what?
I'll hang up and
all right, we'll let you in next time. I'm sorry about that, Replica. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, right?
Good.
call from
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just had a boot Replica off the phone. And I'm going to have to ask for you to call back. We got time for one more call today, and we're trying to get Rod Nixon.
Okay.
So I do apologize, sir. I love your calls. I haven't heard from Replica in a long time. I love his calls. But we're trying to get Rod. He's been trying to get in from the very first second. Please call back at a later time.
No problem.
I apologize, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. Rod Nix, please try to call in. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Rod Nix.
from
Rod Nix.
Rod, are you there?
I'm here, Greg.
Okay, beautiful. Thanks for calling, and I appreciate it, Replica. I appreciate it, Movie Time Blues. I love you guys. Please call in at a later time. Rod Nix, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Greg. First, let me apologize to my brothers, Movie Time Blues and Replica. I did not intend to bump you guys off. We're family. We're all one big happy family. I apologize, brothers, but I hope we'll be able to make it up to you at a later time.
Yeah.
Greg.
Yes, sir.
You have been sizzling hot over the last week. I haven't been able to get in, but you are sizzling hot.
Well, a lot of people say I'm freezing cold. That's what a lot of people would say. In fact, if I can just steal 1 second from you, Moen After Dark, Super Chat, Greg is so cold that his alarm clock has a defrost. Thank you for the $2 holler, Moen. Go ahead, Rod. The floor is yours.
We'll send send our brother Moore a bottle of Crown. He'll be all right.
Yeah. That's true.
But here's the deal, Greg. And again, you are breaking key nuggets in this process.
Yep.
Let me try to explain to the family where we're headed. First of all, I don't have the clout that the FSU money perch has. Mm-hmm. I'm not that in the loop. I don't have access to that information. But as a long-term, mid-tier Florida State booster, I do have connections with several key business entities in Tallahassee. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have been saying it for well over a month in side chats with Mark Simmons and some other Noah fans in the PATC community. I'm telling you guys the economics of this matter, regionally and locally, are facilitating a shift in Tallahassee and in the southeastern footprint. When you look at southeast Alabama, southwest Georgia, and North Florida, where Florida State's heart and soul resides, the economic interests are pushing very hard for a Southeastern Conference entry, and they are being heard, Greg. They are being heard. I'm not saying, I'm just like you, I'm not making a prediction, but I'm telling you the big scoop is gaining quiet traction with the economic interest in the region.
Yeah.
Those interests are being heard. Here are three major points I want to bring and throw out there for consideration. Number one, everybody is focused on football and the revenue that the contracts will bring in for football and the like, and rightfully so. It is a massive money driver. It's the economic engine as we know it today. But as we have said time and time again in the PATC community, things are constantly changing. They're constantly fluid. The non-football related revenue, the Olympic sports, the very sports that you're talking about Notre Dame is trying so hard to find a home for, in the Southeastern Conference, in the Southeastern football, those sports make huge money locally. And the regionalization, a Florida State versus Auburn, a Florida State versus Florida, a Florida State versus Georgia, in those Olympic sports will pack arenas, and it will offset any possible other losses that others are looking at. The Big Ten, as much as people will want Florida State to go to the Big Ten, the Big Ten can't match that. The Big Ten cannot handle and beat that economic influence. You're talking potentially millions. We're talking about new revenue streams. If you start doing that, you will have a revenue stream of unparalleled proportion in some regards. Point number two, the SEC already has two quote-unquote minor league partners in play to help them with the scheduling that Matt Hayes dropped a nugget on. In the comments, I said that this was a PATC money shot.
Yeah.
The Sun Belt and the FCS Southern Conference are already lockstep with the SEC.
Yeah.
They would have no problem filling slots on a schedule if the SEC moved to pods, which in turn, in the footprint, would make everybody happy, because you are talking rivalries that some of us have been wanting for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I was joking with Don Scruggs about Georgia and Florida. We've been begging for that rivalry, even though we got our butts handed to us a little while back. We've been begging for that rivalry for years, and I'm here to tell you, put Georgia in Doak Campbell Stadium, or if we go to Sanford Stadium, you will catch hell getting tickets to that game if you aren't a season ticket holder. Yeah. So there is a wave moving here. Everybody's looking at the big picture, rightfully so, but I'm telling you, pay close attention to these regional alliances that are taking place. You often mention, Greg, about the political connections in North Carolina and in Virginia. Do not underestimate the political connections in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. The leading candidates for governor in the state of Florida right now are Florida State alumni. The key leaders in both chambers of the legislature in Florida are Florida State alumni. Do not underestimate. You have continuously preached about relationships. Florida State has relationships that people are seriously not paying attention to, and those relationships have clout in the Southeastern footprint.
Yeah.
It doesn't guarantee entry into the Southeastern Conference. It may not guarantee a bid, but if what it does is it gives Florida State an ability to sit at a table once we get the second-tier talks and potentially first-tier talks and be able to have a serious discussion about inclusion. So that's what I wanted to bring in, Greg. There's a lot of things going on in Tallahassee that are economically aligned behind the scenes, but they're going to play into the hand of where Florida State eventually decides that they want to try to go here in the next 24 months, as AD Michael Alfred has already put the word out there. We're going to make a move. They're being very tight-lipped, but we're going to make that move. I just wanted to, go ahead, my brother.
No, you said it a lot better than I've ever said it. So I greatly appreciate this phone call. I think the Southeastern Conference wants to expand and also to consolidate at the same time. For them to expand, they need to consolidate. For them to break away or have that threat of a breakaway in the future, or if we do it now, they have to consolidate. And what I mean by consolidate, they need to consolidate in the places that they have regional, cultural, and political power. In other words, Florida State would help with that greatly. Clemson would help with that greatly. And then the Southeastern Conference would expand with a North Carolina and somebody else, probably maybe maybe a Virginia Tech. But
Virginia Tech.
They need to expand, and they also need to consolidate. The regional stuff.
Correct.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off, Greg. I apologize. Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead.
No, you are exactly right. And again, the conversations, when you sit in these entities in Tallahassee, when you sit in these restaurants and you sit in these bars and these other entities in Tallahassee with your fellow mid-tier boosters, and the big guys come walking in, and you start to hear the chatter, you start to hear these little nuggets coming in, and it's gaining traction. Again, I'm like you. I'm not going to sit here on this 27th or 28th day of April and make a prediction, but I'm telling you, the SEC is hearing some strong vibes from regional partners in the footprint about exactly what we're talking about. The Southeastern Conference can break away, and if they go regional, they won't miss a beat. As a matter of fact, they will make more money. And with the worldwide leader and its little satellite partners handling their broadcasting and the like, there is no limit to where they can go. And I promise you, people will pay to see this. Football is gospel in this part of the country. And I'm telling you, people will lose it. The rivalries that will be instantly born as soon as the announcement is made, should the announcement come, that Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech are the big scoop, look out.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, keep doing the great work. I'll try to feed you as many nuggets as I get from our little inner circle, my friend.
I will. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much.
Movie Time Blues, Replica, I apologize, brother. Nothing but love for you guys.
Yep. Beautiful.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
All right, Greg, give mama a hug.
Yep.
All right,
And there's a lot. There's even more to it. Like the Southeastern Conference probably feels that it's more of a risk. Let me put it like LSU, for example. LSU would rather keep playing smaller LSU schools for the non-conference games, and then instead of playing a Big 12 team, an ACC team, a Big 10 team in the non-conference, but they want to make sure that the Louisiana Tech, the Louisiana Monroe, and same with same with South Carolina. They play the Citadel once in a while, and and I don't know what are the other small schools in there. Furman, which is FCS. What is that? South Carolina State. There are programs that the SEC regionally are going to want to keep playing. They come to play at the big SEC stadiums. They get a really good check, and it keeps those athletic departments viable. And now they play 10 conference games. The SEC schools make more money overall. They ensure there's 7 home games. I mean, like Rod Nick said, the Southeastern Conference has got this gamed out. Now, the addition of a Florida State and Clemson helps with all of that. But I think at the same time, they need to expand outside to get bigger footprint. And that's why I keep thinking, I keep believing. My prediction, not a report, a prediction says the Southeastern Conference does the big scoop, especially if they go silo. But we got to be honest here. A Paul Feinbaum, a Heather Dinich, they keep mentioning, if the SEC expands, it will be a 2-school expansion. But I think it's going to be the big scoop. I could be wrong. It's not a report. We're not there yet. We're not imminent. It's not imminent yet. Nothing is done. Nothing is settled. Nothing is signed, sealed, and delivered. But I think the momentum is going in that direction. But anyways, we've been on the air for 2 hours. I got to get out of here. I appreciate everybody coming on in. I want to thank Daniel Gygax, David B., Stephen McNeely, member for 29 months. Holy smokes. Thank you very much, Stephen McNeely. I didn't even see that. Thank you. You are Knighted Cloak and Dagger. Thank you for becoming a member for 29 months. The Big Huddle, Buckeye Greg, Esbitox, Samoan After Dark for your very kind support, your donations to the program. I do want to thank the great phone calls that we received. A special thank to Replica and Movie Time Blues. I rarely ever do that. We're going to take your calls whenever you want to call in next time. I appreciate it. I love your Replica. I love your Movie Time Blues. I sincerely apologize to both of you. But Rod Nix was battling, and we needed to hear that call from a Florida State Seminole perspective. We're going to be coming on live tomorrow. The Nebraska 18 arbitration case is going to be happening. If there is some link, if we can get into that courtroom, to that mediation room, somebody provide me a link. I want in. If we can get in, we'll cover it live. I'm guessing there's going to be no cameras in there. But we're going to cover the reporting that comes out of the Nebraska 18 arbitration case. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Before you leave, smash the like button. If you've liked our content, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, share the video. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family,